All right, welcome back. Thank you again for tuning in to another one of my low budget screenings. Today I am talking about this post I made about the difficulties of being a man when it comes to emotions. Now, every generation has its challenges, and traditionally, or let's just say in previous generations, there was a lot of burden on men to be providers and protectors. And most jobs were pretty shitty. Like, imagine working in a coal mine or having to farm without modern tools, or I don't even know what, like, most jobs were just manual labor, super long hours. Everyone was living on $1 a day minus, the 1%. And life was just tough. Medicine wasn't as good. Bunch of children died under the age of 1. Just rough living. And even just in terms of our, as a society, our understanding of psychology, of um, what else, sociology, science, even just medicine, like everything was different. Our understanding of like social issues like race, um, countries, we didn't have YouTube. So if you were American, you just believed if the media told you that like the Japanese had 4 eyes or and 2 tongues and spawned from the devil or something. I don't know. So, anyways, in that kind of environment, there wasn't a lot of talk about therapy or emotional intelligence. Everyone was just too busy working and not dying. And that was pretty much it. And so, you know, there was a lot of wounds, a lot of trauma. Men just were not very, at least this is the impression that I get. And it's certainly what's true with my father and my grandfather, and what I see portrayed and from what people share. But what but maybe there was a time when men were very emotionally aware. I don't know, but it doesn't seem that way. And they were just working. But the world is changing now. Male female dynamics have changed in the modern world, and there is a greater call for men to be more emotionally intelligent. Now we don't this is where it gets confusing because not everyone understands what this means, and it's different for everyone. But there's this idea that men need to be sensitive, but not too sensitive, as you hear Ross from Friends talk about. You want men to be able to feel and identify their emotions and not just be these stoic, rational, people, because that's not what men are. We have emotions, but you don't want us to get lost in them. You don't want to become hysterical and helpless, like Bruce Willis from Friends, where he just breaks down. Because at the end of the day, men still need to be effective. And so, what does all this mean for me, right? How do I draw the line? Like, what does it mean to be emotionally intelligent but still be effective, et cetera, et cetera? Should we just ignore our feelings, like Mark Manson says, because they just are fleeting, and we should just learn to suppress them or ignore them and rely still solely on our rational intellect? Well, I believe no, because our emotions are information, and we evolve them for a reason, and when properly utilized, they're incredibly powerful. And it's an inevitable part of us, and so learning to ignore or suppress that in some ways isn't healthy, in my opinion. Like I said, They're great sources of information that we can use to either assess our environment or our expectations. All emotions serve their own unique purpose. None are inherently good or bad. It's all about how we relate to them. The main issue that I see when it comes to emotions is confusing our emotions with the stories that we attach to them. We don't recognize that we have some say or choice in the emotions we feel based on the stories we create. And so this is why the radical honesty process is so important. And I talk about this in my courses and whatnot, but it's just this idea that when you have an emotion or you feel an emotion, you break it down into what are you observing, what are like the facts that you observe, what is the emotion that you feel, and what is the story that you create that leads to the emotion that you feel. And when you're able to do this and you're able to do it consistently, what you realize is that two people could observe the same fact or be in the same scenario, but their emotion could be very different depending on the stories that they create. It's like Tony Robbins says, what do we focus on? What do you observe? What does it mean? What is the story? And that leads to the emotions, and which leads to the actions and the decisions. Well, what are we going to do about it? And when you're able to do this, you can break it down, and you can try to change your story, be aware of the story, and realize that if you adopted another story, you might feel something very different to the same exact circumstances. And it's easier said than done, again, because a lot of the stories we create are patterns, they're habits, a lot of which we create in childhood because we are just programmable computers in some ways. And so it does take work and effort, obviously, to reflect in this way, and to in some instances find the root of certain thought patterns and reprogram. But I believe this is what allows us to, again, continue to feel our emotions, and to be able to label them. And when we're just able to do that, we're able to detach a little bit and not make decisions too rashly. We're allowed to just be like, okay, I notice I'm angry. I notice I'm sad. I notice I'm excited, whatever it is. And to not make decisions from there as quickly. Because generally, decisions we make from our emotions are ones we tend to regret, and for whatever the case may be. So, yeah, I do believe this is an important part of being a person. And I don't think that's gender specific. But in terms of men specifically, I do believe that there is just a new definition, or a new call for men to be a little bit more balanced, to integrate their energies, as I like to say. And this is a big part of that. So, hope you enjoyed that. Hope you found that helpful. And again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to let me know. Till next time.